And so guys, today for the conversation, of course, we have James and Carl here, as we do for these things, but we're also joined by four very special CCP coaches who are going to be sharing a little bit of their story and answering some questions as we go as well, to really reflect on what the experience is like in the trenches for coaches and gym owners at the moment. So really looking forward to hearing their stories as we go. And guys, just to give you a quick brief rundown of what you're going to expect with the agenda for today, we will start with an intro. So I am going to introduce you to all the speakers here and give them an opportunity to tell you a little bit about themselves. Carl is going to kick us off with a conversation just reflecting on the state of the fitness industry and the landscape at the moment. We will have James come in and from his position of experience reflect on changes in the fitness industry over time. We'll have our panel come in to answer some questions that I asked them. And then at the end, we will be opening it up for Q&A. So guys, what I'm actually going to do is just give you all a brief introduction. So first of all, we have James here. James is the founder of OPEX and the reason why we're all here as OPEX coaches today. And then we also have Carl on the webinar. And Carl is OPEX CEO. And together, the two of them, they are our core instructors who deliver the education that we teach to coaches all around the world. And then we have our panel. So we have Robin, we have Melissa, we have Glenn, and we have Jacob. You can see their pictures up on the screen, but what I'm going to do, rather than just having you guys look at the slides, I do want to give each of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves so you can hear a little hello from their mouths. So I am going to stop my share, if you bear with me 1 second, technology. And then we'll hear from each of our speakers, just a brief introduction. Who are you and what do you do? So I'm going to start with Robin. Robin, do you mind coming off mute and saying hi?
Yes. Hey, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in. So I've been coaching for the last 4 or 5 years, mostly group classes and some personal training. And just when I started my CCP adventure, let's say, I got caught up in Morocco. I am from Belgium, so it's not where I usually live, but all the borders closed and I've been stuck here for the last 5 months, still hoping to get a plane home. Should be soon.
Well, you've got a really incredible story, Robin, that we're looking forward to hearing later. I will pull in Glenn now. Glenn, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from and what you do.
Hi, I'm Glenn. I'm from the UK. I'm the owner of OPEX Gatwick. We've been an OPEX licensed gym for nearly 3 years now. Before that, we were a CrossFit affiliate. I've been coaching for nearly 10 years now. Before that, I was a police officer for 13 years.
Thanks, Glenn. And now I'll pull in Jacob. Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Jake. I'm the owner of Sal's Gym in Flint, Michigan. I've been coaching for about 7 years, functional fitness. I dropped my affiliate just right after the where we could open our doors, the order. And I am currently going through the CCP and the licensing. So learning quite a bit. And we're going pretty strong right now. So
thanks, Jake. And then finally, Melissa, let's hear a little from you.
Hi, I'm Melissa and I own OPEX Cura in San Mateo, California. We're right outside of San Francisco, and I've been in OPEX Gym for going on 4 years now. Made the transition from being a CrossFit affiliate or a unique CrossFit affiliate before OPEX Gyms existed. And really excited to talk about why I'm excited about the future of fitness and some really cool things I think are going to be coming our way.
And Melissa makes a really good point here. The point of this webinar isn't to reflect on the doom and gloom of the situation right now. It's to, number one, inspire a little bit of hope with you guys. And number two, give you some really practical experience and tips from coaches who are out there making it happen. So really looking forward to hearing from all of you guys. Before we do that, I'm going to start with Carl and ask Carl if you could come in and just reflect a little bit on the current fitness landscape from where you see it as the CEO of OPEX.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Georgia. Just for context, Georgia told me prior that I only had 5 to 7 minutes, so I'll make this really quick. gosh, because we could talk, we did talk about this in an entire webinar a couple months ago where we broke down the state of the industry and where we are as fitness coaches. And I think it's safe to say that that's changed slightly over the past 6 months. So I just want to talk about, uncertainty, and we're experiencing a lot of uncertainty right now on the coach client side and on the client side. So first on the coach side, which, is obviously relevant to everyone on this call, is my model viable, right? Like we talk to personal trainers all the time, and they call us and they're like, my gym is shut down. I need to figure out a different way to do this, right? So when we look at the personal training industry in the classical sense inside of a commercial gym, if those commercial gyms are shut down, those trainers aren't making any money right now, right? So that's a high level of uncertainty for that group of coaches or trainers. Then we go into the group coaches, right? It's gyms closed, distancing orders. Can I still do this group thing while maintaining, 20 feet between each person in Washington State, right? My clients are really uncomfortable being in an area where 20 people are breathing and sweating and so on and so forth, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty in that area. And also in what we do, and the ID coaches, right? And even inside of the model that we coach in, there's still uncertainty, right? Our gym's closed, right? So we were able to pivot and to coach clients online. And I know that, Melissa and Glenn will hit on this in their piece, but we were able to pivot, and it affected us a little bit less than it affected other models. But that doesn't mean that we weren't affected by it, because we absolutely still were. And then on the coach's side, it's, do I jump ship, right? So think about the 3 models that we just talked about. Do I jump ship and try to convert over to a different model, or do I leave fitness coaching altogether? That's a real question right now. And the industry is changing in that way, because there's a lot of coaches that are leaving and a lot of trainers that are leaving because they're telling themselves, this isn't viable for me and my family, or for me and my future right now. And on the other side, there's a lot of people coming into this industry because they're saying fitness is the answer, health and vitality and so on and so forth. So they're like, okay, I lost my job over here, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to be a fitness coach, right? So we're seeing, coaches leaving, and we're seeing coaches come in, right? And it's tough, because when we look at, do you jump ship or do you pivot? We can't tell most people to be patient and weather the storm, right? Because a lot of coaches that we talk to particularly don't have a runway, right? They can't weather the storm for 4 months without making any money and still pay their expenses of their gym, or pay their rent, or pay their car bill, right? So coaches are making very hasty decisions right now because they have to make those decisions right now. So it's not enough to just tell coaches, be patient and weather the storm, because that's not a viable option for some. And to be quite frank, most coaches that we talk to. We also see coaches that are blinded by opportunity. And you guys will hear, everyone on the panel's story, right? Get something out of that, but don't think that everyone on this panel is you, right? Because your situation is different. Maybe the model that they're coaching in is different. So we can be blinded by other people's success sometimes, right? So just because it works for Melissa doesn't mean that it's going to work that well for you. So think about where you are in your coaching journey and what your next step should be. And then finally, just to wrap it up and kind of end on the client side, because this does affect us, right? It's like people paying us for our service as a fitness coach. We have to consider how clients are being affected during this time, and this time of uncertainty. So some questions that clients are asking that it's important for us to consider. It's like, will I survive this economically? Will I survive this literally, right? It's like, am I in danger? Is my health in danger, right? Some clients don't know what to believe and what not to believe, right? So do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? Are gyms safe? Are they not? Because if you read, different states and provinces, news articles every single day, we're not even on the same page, right? So how do our clients feel inside of those states, provinces, countries, wherever we are around the world? And then there's the fact that clients are asking themselves, will I ever go back to the gym? And that's a real issue for some of us, right? Because some of us, our models are based on being inside of a gym and coaching people face to face, no matter what model you're in, right? Like if you have a brick and mortar location, that's a real problem if you have a number of clients that think that they will never go back to the gym. And if we look at a couple surveys over the past couple months, right, like it's been 50 to 75% of people across the board that have said that I will never go back to the gym, not because of fear, but because I found a better way. And then clients are going to ask themselves, do I need a coach? Right? We have Peloton. We have thousands of fitness apps that are popping up every single day. We have clients that have found that they could just walk, hike, and do yoga at home on their own without a coach, and they're completely fulfilled with that. And that's not wrong, right? That's not wrong. We believe that. We believe that should be a part of, everyone's life, those things, just moving blood on a daily basis. So clients are asking themselves, do I pay X amount of dollars every single month to have a coach when I think I can just do this on my own? Sorry, George, I went 7.5 minutes.
I told you could have 5 to 7 minutes, so you're all good. And Carl, those are some really great considerations and just things for people who are listening in today to ask themselves when they assess their situation relative to the situation of some of our panelists here today. What I would love, just very quickly, if you guys, everyone listening in, throw in the chat box, set to all panelists and attendees, and let us know, are you a personal trainer, group fitness coach, individual design coach, remote coach? It would be great to have context of who we're speaking to. So please throw that in the chat box for us now. And while you do that, we are going to shift along to have James come in and just share a little bit of context based on his experience. And James has been involved in fitness coaching for over 20 years. He's seen a lot of changes in the industry, so has some great perspective to bring to us. And I'm just looking at what's happening in the chat box as we go, guys. Looks like there is a real mix of people doing personal training, group coaching, individual design, online. So guys, thanks for sharing that. It's great to have that context. Now, James, I'm going to bring you in. Could you just share a little bit about the changes that you've experienced in the fitness industry and what you've learned from those changes?
Yeah, I think a couple things is analog to digital, and there's a lot in that story. We moved for a good period of time. Let's just say there was a starting history point of actual fitness coaching and the zeitgeist being in the 80s, and the professionalism of that in the 90s. This was still in an analog era, and that was pen and paper, and that was in person, and that was very, it was close. And now in 2020, which is why I like the way you asked the question, because you know how I could set up the doom and gloom a whole lot better as a contrast to what's positive. We're dealt with, pushing up against this diminished value in the coach simply due to that increase in digital progression. And that's a fact, and it's a reality. So that's the current, that's the current lens that I have, Georgia, that leads into all of my decision-making on what we represent in CCP and what we represent in OPEX in honoring every individual and real human relationships. So that's what I think has been the major big change. Other changes too, I think, with the growth of just this collective idea of improved cognitive function, I think collectively as humans, we've continually lost appreciation for physical expression. And we've overcorrected this concept of physical expression to be a fix. And somewhere along the way in that timeline, we've lost this appreciation for all the things that we on here know to be true. But it's ironic that 7.8 billion people don't recognize it that way. So we see it one way, everyone else recognizes it as another, and the closing of that gap is getting tougher. So that's how, as a secondary area, I see is people's perceptions and intentions around physical expression has moved into correcting for shitty lifestyles or fixing other things. So that would be two that I'd stop with.
So we reflected a little on changes there, but what about the constants that have emerged over the last 20, 30 years?
Yeah, well, and from my lens, this is important, you know, it's my lens, the importance of a fitness coach. If, whew, if anything, the positivity of going through all those changes and seeing all of that, that has been, you know, highlighting. You know, just imagine what we would have done in 2002 with this pandemic in fitness coaching, right? If you take a second to think about that, or if you don't even think far enough back, maybe 1993, like, you know, in 2002, like my perceived value would have been like beyond recognition, you know, and now the perceived value is still there. So I think that the recognition of how important a fitness coach is, and a leader in health and fitness, and a pillar in a community, and someone who's going to share all these ideas that lead to a larger life through physical activity, I think has been a constant, really. So it may not look like that, you know what I mean, in terms of perception, but it has been a constant the entire time.
And in that fitness coach, I know you're not just talking about someone that stands in front of a room and yells, or who writes really tough workouts. What are the characteristics of that fitness coach?
It's someone who probably deep down really does care, but they're doing it unconditionally. So this coach is probably passing on this information because of a self-reflection on how they were inspired by an unbelievable moment of physical expression, and they want to live the rest of their life giving that off to other people for nothing in return. So that's the characteristic of that coach, which is the emblem of a true leader, you know, in terms of physical activity and its expression and how to teach people about it. Is they don't want anything in return, even cash. I mean, we know that the best coaches are fumble around that in economy. Like, what do you charge? I don't know. What do you think I should charge? Like, I can't believe you're answering that question. Is, well, that shows great intent, you know? So I think that's deep down. And that's why I like to push it uncomfortably, Georgia, to like, you know what, if you don't have the right intentions, don't get into our profession. We don't want you, because it fucking just clouds up everything. So that would be the deepest burning characteristic, that you're doing it for because you want to contribute. And it feels good, and at the end of the day you're like, that felt good, man. I don't even know what came from that, but it felt good. So that would be a deep characteristic: unconditional care and wanting to contribute for the right reasons, I think.
Thank you, James. And knowing the guys that are speaking today, guys and gals, that is a characteristic that all of them embody, and that makes them absolute leaders in their communities and in our industry as a whole. So very glad to have them on today. And we are now going to move on to Glenn. And Glenn, what I'd love to know is your perspective of as a gym owner who went through a first round of lockdowns. Let's just look back at a moment for at the past few months. How did you manage to weather the storm and the practicality of going through the lockdown?
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, I think as Carl kind of touched upon there, I don't want to make this sound like it was all butterflies and rainbows through this period. It was a really stressful time, probably the most stressful time I've had as a business owner. Just navigating the administrative side of giving out the kit to the gym, and then as a business owner, worrying about the financial implications of what we're going to go through as well. And, you know, thirdly, as a coach, just the transition of 35 people on designs that revolved around them being in the gym to them suddenly being at home with a dumbbell and a skipping rope. It was tough. But once that kind of initial phase came to pass, we kind of settled into this kind of service and helping people. And there was a real kind of positivity that came through that experience, but it was tough for the initial stage.
Reflecting on that, because honestly, like here in the US, there are states that are going around like through second rounds of lockdowns, and it's not a sure thing that gyms are going to be able to remain open into the future. So I would love to know from you just some practicalities around how you were able to shift your clients online temporarily while you were closed.
Yeah, no worries. So the platform we use is already set up for online kind of coaching. So that was quite easy. That was the easy side of it. And then I think for us, it was more of a transition into really helping people navigate this period of uncertainty and really get into, you know, the things outside of reps and sets. And there were some real moments with a lot of my clients where it was just deeply rewarding. It's probably the most rewarding period I've had as a coach with people through this period, which is bizarre because the gym was closed. But that really showed to me the value of the process of what we do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned there when you're forced to be creative about just how valuable a coach can be. So Glenn, where's the business at now, and how are you doing?
Yeah, so we're doing well. I'm not going to lie. We're next to the second largest airport in the UK. So we lost quite a few people initially because they're employed in the aviation industry. But probably unlike a lot of other gyms, we did attract new clients through that period, simply because we were still able to offer a service, and we had like a large, existing base of people who knew us and came back to us. So coming out the other side of it now, we're nearly full again, and I anticipate by the end of the month we'll probably be full as a gym again, which is great.
Oh, that is brilliant. And I know Jake and Melissa also have physical locations that they were forced to close for a period of time. Either Jake or Melissa, whoever wants to jump in, do you have any reflections there about what you learned through that process?
I can hop on this one. So we did have to close, and California, or my county, has also just reclosed gyms back down again. So I think we were very fortunate to be in a place where most of our clients, when this happened, we changed the language around what expectation was, and we didn't treat this like it was a 2-week at-home training program until things normalized back out, but just changed the language of, if this is what training looks like for the next year, how can we set some new goals and make training fun and fit into what your life looks like now, so that even with the reclosing, it's not like a letdown for anyone, right? Like, we've kind of built some resiliency into our programs to be able to weather this out and make the best of creating new normals and what our clients want for their unforeseeable futures.
Thank you, Melissa. That's some great advice there. And I am going to now turn a question to Jake. Jake, do you mind just telling us a little bit about your gym, how it operates? And then through COVID-19, were there any strengths and weaknesses with your business model that emerged?
Yeah, so I would probably consider us like a hybrid gym. We do run GPP classes. Before the pandemic, I would say that we were mostly GPP. But we've always done personalized programming, more of like a retention tactic for those who were like getting burnt out on classes and stuff. But I would say majority of our strength was communication with a lot of our members. We try to be as open as possible. We don't really try to sugarcoat anything. We tell them what's going on, and they take it really well, I guess. I'd say we had more strengths from the pandemic than probably weaknesses. I mean, I could go on a large list of weaknesses just because, that's pretty easy to do. But was communication. We never really, I wouldn't say we necessarily relied too heavily on group classes. We always had broken it up to where we had open gym. And that open gym was a great time for us and our coaches to kind of, I would say, go fishing to get people to more switch to a more personalized program. So our people were pretty used to that. So when we did close, it was a pretty easy transition for a lot of them. We didn't lose a member, which was great, because I think they were conditioned for like being on their own in a sense, because a lot of them did have personalized stuff already. I don't even know if I'm answering your question.
No, that is like so perfect to hear. So you had a mix of members, some doing like GPP group classes, yeah, and then some doing individual program design. You had to close down the gym, and yep, you shifted all of them to individual program design.
Yep. We got the state order to close the gym. All gyms are closed. And we were like the first in hair salons to go. So we were ready for it because the salons went first, and we were like, well, we're probably next. And what we did is we loaned out our equipment to our athletes. We don't have a large amount of people, so it was pretty easy to kind of sort it out. And that allowed us to kind of transition really well. And then it was all onto the platform using TrueCoach, which was great for us because, like James was saying, we were very analog. We always did notebooks for a lot of people. So that really pushed us in the right direction.
And you mentioned early on that communication, you believe, was like one of the big strengths for you guys. Could you elaborate a little bit about what you mean regarding communication?
Yeah, so like you guys have said, everyone knows how everything was just kind of tossed up in the air. We didn't really know what was going on, how we were all going to handle it. And first thing we did is we sent out emails to everyone, basically leaving the door open to cancel their membership if that's what they needed to do. But we quickly followed up with, if you stay with us, here's what we are going to offer. So we went from regular just classes to offering way more. And at that time, I just started doing CCP, which was great within transition. So it allowed us to kind of play into that really well. And yeah, is that a good answer?
It absolutely is. And I think Melissa said it really well when she was reflecting on how they've communicated with their members too, that you just have to set really clear expectations with people.
Yeah.
And it seems like that is something across the board you guys are doing. So one more question for you, Jake, before we move on. You mentioned that, you had observed some weaknesses in your business. And I think this period of time, these last few months, it's been incredibly self-reflective time for gym owners to think about that. Is there anything you're actively doing now to be able to future-proof your business to make sure those weaknesses don't exist?
Yeah, I would say one of our main weaknesses, it's me and my wife that own and operate the building, the business, and we were always low manned. So I was able to bring on a new coach and start showing them like how we do things. And one of our biggest weaknesses is processes. So bring onboarding coaches, contracts. We've been kind of, the traditional, like, what can you afford, things like that, and being very, very flexible with people. And it showed us that it did help, I guess, with the relationships that we have right now. But since we have opened, and the only reason we are open is because they've limited to 10 people inside the gym, and we have an outside space that is very large. So we are able to run our GPP classes outside. Personal is capped at 10 inside. So it allowed us to kind of really, and being in the licensing, the CCP licensing, it's really shown us a lot of weaknesses that we do have that we have to kind of tighten up. So I'd say processes, and we have started to nip the low manned in the butt. So mainly processes right now.
Awesome. And I know you're working with Carl, like you said, in the accelerator program, and he's definitely one to help any coach be able to upgrade their processes. That's for sure. And he doesn't sugarcoat it if you're doing something subpar.
Yeah, that's what we all need, I think.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, Jake. And we will now move on to Robin. Robin, I'm just going to let you take the floor because you do have an incredible story, and what you've been able to do over the last couple months really blew me and blew our entire team away when we first heard it. How you've been able to turn a tough situation into a really positive one. Not to build it up too much, but do you mind just coming in, Robin, and sharing a little of your story with us?
Yeah, sure. So I was here initially on a 9-day holiday with my girlfriend. The first plan was not even bringing my computer because I was like, I'm just gonna relax, take a holiday, But then I thought maybe I have to adjust some things, so I'll just grab it with me. Now I'm really glad I did because so halfway until our holiday, we were here for 3 days, I think. We were on a 2-day trip into the Sahara Desert, so we didn't really have any reach or whatever. When the lockdown happened, Morocco wasn't like a lot of countries where they announced it like a week ahead. In the morning, they said by this evening, we're going to go into a full lockdown. So we came out of the desert. We tried to get some food somewhere. Everything was closed. And we heard that we had only a couple of hours to get to somewhere, Luckily, a local guy from Marrakesh, which we met just before leaving, invited us to come into his house. He said, you can stay here until you have a plane. So we moved there pretty fast, but too late to catch a flight. We tried to catch some flights, but they all got canceled. So we got stuck here. We're 5 months later and I'm still stuck here, but I'm really glad. So I started CCP in the April cohort, and I had my laptop with me. I had some online clients. So actually, in a pretty gnarly situation, I was also in a really good situation because we weren't allowed outside of the house. I don't know how it was in a lot of other countries, but you weren't allowed to go to the streets even, or you needed permissions to go to the store and what's not. And we didn't have that. So we had basically nothing to do. So my girlfriend started a vlog and I started building out my online coaching business. I had, I think, 7 clients when I got here. It was just like a side business. Some people that I coached in group classes and wanted to compete or had some, extra goals, wanted to do some individual coaching, started with me already. And I got a lot of time and even more information from CCP to slowly build up to what I have now. I don't have any crazy numbers. I'm at 15 people in my roster now, but I chose to not further build that out because we're still like, are we going to leave tomorrow, or is it going to be next month, or we're in a lot of uncertainty still. So yeah, we're still seeing how and when we're going to be able to leave Morocco actually. Yeah, so that's it. We've been practicing, or I've been practicing CCP. It helped me a lot to learn efficiencies to do the programming, because that was like, I think that I'm taking less time now with 15 clients than I did with 7 clients, because I was all over the place just trying to program in between classes and between training sessions. I think a lot of people can relate with that who just start out with remote coaching. A lot of the business side as well. How do you communicate to clients? How do you set up, monthly checkups? How do you check up on a weekly or daily basis even? So a lot of the professional side has gotten a lot better. So there was a lot, or there is still a lot of uncertainty, but it has brought me, I think, more good so far than it has gotten me worse situations. And I'm in a really beautiful country and got to discover a really nice culture here as well. So that's great.
That is a massive positive right there, Robin. One thing I am curious is, how did you go from those 7 to 15 clients, from being stuck inside, not being able to connect with anyone?
So I had some leads before coming here, people that were interested in my program, or I was interested in getting into my program, but didn't really take in because I was working in multiple gyms, giving a lot of group classes and doing some personal training with it. So it was a little bit much to handle. So I started just talking to people. You can work social media, and I'm starting to get to know that a little bit, but I'm quite a talky person, so I just started talking to people that I liked, and some people started to talk to me and get interested, and one thing leads to the other, and now they're my clients, or my students rather. Yeah.
I love that. So there are people that were already kind of within your broader community, and you just took that step to go out there and talk to them.
Yeah, some of them. I've met some other people as well. We got some reach through, like my girlfriend started a vlog in the beginning. So she got on YouTube, and because of that, we got in contact with some people as well. And so I got a guy from Brazil now in, and there's some people here around that are some leads now that might come in. So a lot of good things have happened through that.
Brilliant. And I really think what you said there, that you just started talking to people, is something to drive home to people listening in who are thinking about, whether it's in person or whether it's online, whatever it is. If you are trying to grow your client base, you can't do that if you don't go out there and make connections and have conversations. So don't be scared to do that, guys.
Yeah, that's it.
What does the future look like, Robin? What do you want to do if you are able to return home?
Yeah, that's a scary question. I don't even, it's we've had periods where we're like planning on what we're gonna do and when we're gonna do it, but we had some canceled flights and we had some opportunities and some canceled opportunities, and just a lot of stuff is going on at the moment. So for me at the moment, I try to just focus on what I can do right now, right here, and I'll see what I do and how I do it when I get back to wherever I'm getting. First thing is getting to Europe, which isn't so easy so far. So as soon as that goes well, we're gonna see how we're gonna do. But I don't think, I'm pretty sure that remote coaching is something that I want to keep building on. And I've gotten into the individual programming more and realized that there's a lot of nice things to coaching group classes, but there are a lot of nice things as well that at the moment draw me a little bit more in individual programming. So that's the route that I want to step on mainly at the moment. Yeah, step away a little bit from mainly group classes and go more into individual programming.
Thanks, Robin. And people in the chat box are super impressed by you and your story. So we wish you all the best for whatever your next steps are. Yeah. So I am going to now turn to Melissa, and I'm going to ask Melissa to reflect a little bit on the fitness principles that she has had throughout the changes that have occurred over the last 5 months. Have your fitness principles been altered, Melissa, by COVID-19 and all these shifts?
Hey, so I am going to answer your question, but I'm also going to take another direction too, based off the questions we're getting in the chat bot. So like when we first talked, one of the things was, do I feel inspired by where fitness is going? And having 120 plus people on this call says yes to me, right? So I think there are a lot of us in the fitness industry that are taking this time to better educate ourselves, whether that's through CCP, wherever you find the holes to be in your education or your ability to serve people. And I think that's one gift we've been given right now, right? So whether you're building your remote client base or you've just got some downtime, is we can, as a collective, better educate ourselves to raise the bar for what fitness coaching looks like as a whole as we come out of this pandemic, right? So I think that is a really big blessing we've been given. I think for new coaches that are struggling right now to figure out how to package remote coaching coming out of an actual gym, my biggest recommendation right now is to lean into authentic organic referrals off people you know in real life. So if you're jumping from a gym and you're going on to the virtual setting, trying to create a really big following isn't always going to transfer into more clients. It can be very overwhelming, and you end up giving away a lot of free content that doesn't return clients back onto your roster. So that's my number one recommendation for the people that have been asking in the box is start at a local level, build really great connections with your clients that you already have, and use that to get organic referrals from them, especially right now because trust is so important. I think a lot of people are scared to go back into gyms because you're working out with strangers, you don't know who's going to be there, you don't know their protocols. But if your best friend says they feel really comfortable with their coach, that person's going to be much more likely to re-enter your gym when they can, or just work with you in a remote setting, than they are going back to a crunch or a 24-hour fitness. So it's free. It doesn't cost a lot of money other than being a great coach to get people to refer people to you. So that's my first thing is I am very inspired. And I think this is going to be a really good thing for fitness overall as we come out of this.
Thank you, Melissa. That is such great advice and something you're not just saying. I know you live by that and you put it into practice every day with your community and your gym. So Melissa knows a thing or two about this, guys.
And then as far as for principles, have they changed? No, I think if anything, they're stronger. I think with some of the removed stress of life, of having to commute to work, being home late for dinner, people are actually leaning into things that we have to normally consciously bring them back to, right? So when a lot of people enter our gyms, we go to the basics of, hey, can you remember to drink your water, get some blood flow, sit down and chew? And those things are actually happening now because people have more time. So if anything, I think I'm more inspired to coach because people are given the opportunity to actually like do the things that we usually have to force upon them or are really hard, right? So now people are like, oh my God, I feel great. I'm sleeping 8 hours because I'm not commuting 3 hours. Or I'm sitting down at a kitchen table to eat dinner because I'm not rushing from work to take my kid to practice and getting home at, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So there's a lot of really good things coming out of this.
And you've already partly answered this one, but I would love to know from where you're sitting, Melissa, what do you hope that society and maybe the fitness industry as well learns from this whole situation?
If we learn anything, I think it is that we've overcomplicated a lot of things. We don't need to be doing 10 classes a week. We don't need to be entertaining people. We need to be spending time with our family, going outside and moving our bodies. And I think we're seeing where people are like, hey, people don't need gyms anymore. It's not that we don't need gyms anymore. It's that people are actually slowing down enough to reconnect to the things that actually matter. Going outside and riding a bike, right? Taking your kids out and going swimming. Those things are free, and it doesn't remove our job as fitness instructors. That's not a threat, right? I think that's the big takeaway here is my clients can go take their kids for a hike and I can still help them make sure they're engaging their glutes and their hamstrings and they know proper nutrition and recovery, So I think there's a place for all of that to fit in.
From a practical perspective, how are you helping your clients come to those realizations so that they can grow from this experience?
We're leaning in, especially for me and my coaches. We're doing a lot more consults. So I think now we have the time for someone that potentially doesn't know how to have good food hygiene or cook, we can help them with those things. So I think this is where CCP has been very, a huge part of what's made our coaches successful today is they're great at consultation and they know how to help a client on and off the gym floor. So where we may not be doing as much tactile or hands-on coaching with the gym being closed, we are leaning much more into, hey, what does fulfillment look like? If your kids are home, how can we make fitness fit into the whole entire family's routine? If you don't know how to cook, how can we give you some simple skills to start building those things?
Thanks, Melissa. And I do actually want to ask the same question to James. James, if you don't mind coming in, what do you hope that people learn from this crazy last 6 months that we've been living through?
I would say probably the same language, just said differently. Realizing what really matters. Maybe it's an opportunity for a reboot on intentions. And giving everyone a pause and reflection of why do any of that stuff? Like how important is the leg press, or how important is the selfie at the gym? So, I would hope that it stirs a bunch of that. I'm not super hopeful that it's, I can't stop without saying that, the facts and just current behaviors kind of lead me to believe it's going to be a really tough uphill. That doesn't disregard the fact that, we're hopeful that may change, but we'll see. It's exciting just for that, right? We don't know.
This is true, but if we can start with the clients of the coaches that are on today, then that's one step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. If anything, because I can't go, just in case it's my last point to add in something, there is I keep saying that I think we need to overall keep thinking about what our definition is of human relationship. If we keep hammering on that and define it for ourselves, and define it for what we believe in, try to figure out what our biases are around our thoughts around that, we'll all come to a better understanding as to what we believe in for that. And when you move further and further away from asking that question, it seemingly looks like you're doing a whole lot of good shit like agility and pivoting and etc. But it's futile because it doesn't lead to the definition of a great human relationship. And I think that's why it always seemingly, I'm skeptical based upon that, is because I don't want it to be looked like as being people being pivotal and agile, when really we've forgotten about what really matters in that human relationship. I just want to leave it at that.
Thanks, James. And guys, I would ask that you start to think of your questions and get them ready in the chat box to so that while we have this awesome panel on, they are able to answer them for you. But while we wait to get those questions in, and while you guys get them going in the chat box, I did just want to take a second to give you a next step if you are looking to learn more about how to train any client anywhere and really get on the same level of these amazing coaches that are on the call today. And that would be the OPEX Coaching Certificate Program, or CCP. And that is something that Melissa, that Glenn, that Jake, that Robin, that Carl, and then also James, of course, have in common is a CCP education and the principles behind that. Now, really what CCP is designed to do is to help you as a coach deliver your client their ideal version of fitness. And whether that's in person, whether it's online, whether it's some combination of the two, it's really designed to help you do that and to be able to personalize, create consistency in exercise behavior and nutrition, and really to be able to show your value as a coach and grow through challenging times like this one. So guys, what I'm going to do is in the chat box, I'm about to pop a link to our curriculum guide. I would highly recommend, if you haven't looked it over, download that curriculum guide, have a read, because it's going to answer a ton of your questions around CCP. And once you've had a look at that, then we can find a time to have a conversation. But again, first step, click that link in the chat box and do download that curriculum guide so you can see exactly what is involved in CCP. Now, I'm just popping back to the chat box. Have we got some questions rolling in yet? Guys, get those questions in, okay, while we have these awesome panelists on to answer them. I know you guys are all typing madly while we wait. Carl, because we have you here as well, what do you think people will learn from this whole experience?
Yeah, I think Melissa and James said the bulk of what I would say, but just to add even something further to that, I think it's going outside of what our clients are learning during this time, because I think we've all learned something during this time as well, right? It's like we're not immune to overworking. We're not immune to getting misaligned without knowing that we were misaligned. And I think a number of us have experienced that, you know, whether it's spending more time with your family, whether it's working less total hours in the day, if that's what you're going for, whether that's you know, moving more often throughout the day because you're not stuck in an office, or you're stuck in an office inside of a gym all day, right? So I think we were kind of forced to figure our shit out a little bit, right, as the world shut down around us, because we didn't have like the mall to go to, the restaurant to go to, the grocery store to go to for some of us. So I think you know, a lot of us spent time reconnecting with the things we hadn't connected with for years for some people. So I think coaches learned a lot as well, and they, you know, through that learning, they're now pushing that on their clients and having really good conversations about their own experiences with their clients.
Thanks, Carl. And everyone's warming up in the chat box now. I do see James is going to pop in to answer David's question. And
Yep.
David asked, what would be the best route implementing CCP into a healthcare company that doesn't have a fitness model?
Yeah, I think, David, there's a lot to that. And feel free to get me offline to discuss this in more detail, because it is a pretty well-known system that's set up for that now. The major transition in the corporate model, I'm going to classify it in there, that really didn't go right was the top-down approach inside of that system to make it work. So we just had fitness, and then we had corporations, and it was like, oh, these guys should just blend because it'll keep your people healthy and keep them at work, blah, blah, blah. All the intentions were honestly really shitty from the get-go, which is why it ended up, you know, ripping itself and turning itself around into something new. So to answer it very quickly, it's got to be a top-down approach from the people that make the decisions on what they believe in as fitness being a part of that working model. And so if you can get them believing in the fact that all of your employees need to get to the point where they become autonomous in their fitness, they know what to have for snacks at lunch, they know what to do for their exercise during the day, etc., it will lead into the entire business structure owning this conceptual idea around what they should be doing for fitness around their work. And there's a lot more to that, which we can give you examples of where it's been successful or failures. But I hope that starts you on the path to getting that taken care of. And I think there's a question for Glenn there that we didn't want to miss that Megan asked him. Glenn, some of your specific tactics you did to get back to a full gym roster.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, James. Largely through referrals, current members, old members who had left. And then secondly, a lot of our online is through Google, specifically targeting people who want personal training. And we've noticed, like, the last couple of weeks, we've had like so many inquiries just for people looking for personal trainers who aren't comfortable going back into big gyms. So they're coming to us.
Thanks for sharing that, Glenn. Jake or Melissa, anything to add there about specific tactics to build up to a full gym roster?
I'll pop onto that one and segue it kind of into Ashley's question. So rebuilding rosters, I think, again, with so much inconsistency of gyms closing and reopening, I think it really is important to lean into the referrals like I mentioned. And then also just make sure you're shifting slightly more towards a personal training language. A lot of people are leaving bigger gyms right now, just feeling insecure, unsafe being there, and they're still looking for personal trainers to work with. So I think that is something that if you haven't already kind of opted to change your language towards, or potentially your search engines, if you have a website, that it should be leaning more towards personal training right now. But secondarily, how are we handling assessment? I think it's really important whether you're trying to gain clients strictly on a remote side, or you want to hybrid them back into an in-person model, that you're keeping it on a local level. Right. So I think it is very hard if you're working with general population and you're getting people that have no fitness experience in a remote setting to fully be able to assess them and just to start getting common language with that person that they can understand when you're writing their program. I know today's conversation is supposed to be about the future and the current climate, but we can't not talk about retention and finances when we talk about being successful in business and being trainers. So from a retention standpoint, if you're working with general pop and you're doing it on a completely remote side, it can be very difficult and they can fall off very quickly because sometimes you can't see or tactile coach some of the things that a new person really does need if they don't understand fitness yet. So my recommendation is try to keep your remote to a local level where potentially you can have them on site for assessment, and then they can go work on their own or they're comfortable in their home, and you can see them maybe once a month, whether that's outside, if that's what your county requires right now, or inside your gym as a little mini one-on-one session, but they can go remote and still see you for small touches.
That local remote piece is so key, Melissa. And we actually have a free guide coming out next week that you guys should look out for. It'll go to your emails and be on our social as well. That's going to be talking specifically about that. So do look out for that local remote piece. Now, we had a question. I think it initially came from Sean, and then David asked it as well. So I think these guys really want an answer here. And that was, where did it go? Do you think the OPEX model, like a niche gym, is better suited to withstand lockdowns as opposed to big global gyms because there's more people, less space, etc.? I actually might ask Carl to answer that, how you see the OPEX model versus global gyms.
Yeah, only based on the service offering, yes, right? Because if a commercial gym is shut down, they can't service their members. Right, an OPEX or niche, let's call it personalized fitness model, you can still service your members even if they're not inside of your gym. So just by way of the service offering itself, yeah, I would say definitely.
Thanks, Carl. And we had a question as well. Miguel had said, I think we've all been forced to pivot. There's a lot of new skills we've had to learn. What are 2 big new skills that you've applied to your success? I'm going to ask Robin that initially. Any big new skills, Robin?
One is to assess and check people only remotely. That's a big one, because before I came here, so all of my clients, I had the chance to see them at least every once in a while. So learning to check everything only remote and not knowing when or if you're going to be able to see them again was a big skill that I think is pretty valuable, because it is completely different to correcting mistakes on a video than it is when you can touch them and speak to them in person and on the moment. Another one is really booking in your time. For me, at least, was being really efficient in when I do what and how much time I spend in what. So I wasn't really paying attention to that before CCP until I think Carl told me initially, like, we're looking for at least or at maximum 20 minutes of programming per week per client. And then I was like, oh, okay, so we need to move a little bit faster, but of course keep the same or even improve the quality. So finding systems to work efficiently, like putting people with the same kind of goals on the same days of programming, and this kind of stuff has helped a lot, because now I don't have too many clients, so I'm still perfectly able to do anything. But I think as soon as you go over 20, 30, 40 people, you better want to get those systems in place when you're at 10, 15 people like I am, before you get into the 40, 50, 60 people and just work yourself into problems. So those are two big skills I think that are important.
Those are huge, Robin. Thank you for sharing them. I am going to ask Greg's question to James and ask James to elaborate a little bit on his answer. What's your big prediction, big bold prediction around fitness in 2030, James?
Yeah, I answered it. I think, it's, again, I always seem like the guy who wants to bring that up, but there's just too many things pointing towards the digital revolution getting in front of human relationships. I'm sorry, but it's just too many things. So, and the more I do research into that, I'm going back and reading older books now. We have known all of these changes that have taken place in technology for 30 years. And you know what we've done with it? Absolutely fucking nothing, right? All we've done is commoditize it or specialize it or made our lives easier. So if we know this, be okay with the fact that machines are going to be up front and center in all your shit as a coach, right? So we got to learn how to blend and mesh with that. But my prediction, 90% of the entire fitness experience will not have humans in place. Group classes will be run by computers. You'll have your own home shit. There'll be a virtual thing telling you what to do, step down, step back, do this, don't forget to eat your broccoli at lunch, etc. And then there'll be 10% in there, which people will hopefully see that there needs to be some form of human care and human emotion connected to the relationship inside that. That's where I see things going as a broad scope of it. And if we know that to be true, and besides arguing the point if it is going to be true, that multiple industries like agriculture, as I said, have shown that to be true, we have to be prepared for that.
What does being prepared for that mean, James?
We need to push hard on what the value of a fitness coach is.
And that's
what the value is. Yeah, like it'll answer all the questions. Like what value do you provide as a coach? And if you don't get those things that I, of course, just soundbite talk about, right? Your value is dictated by you minus the internet. If you don't understand that context, you'll never grow to see what you need to push towards, right? And if you don't even seemingly think that's the case, then you may have a 5-year career or 6-year career, but you'll never get to that point where people recognize it's your own person and your human aspect that creates the value in what you do. And that will have to be taking place in person, where you get to hopefully over time hug your clients and touch them and feel emotion and like see shit on people's face that's important, and I think there'll be other options. And if you go down the other option is, completely honest, is a race to the bottom, because you're racing against $3 programs per month online.
Guys, get off this call and go connect with your clients in whatever way you can.
Yeah, that's it.
So guys, we are out of time now. Really appreciate all our panelists being on today to share their stories and answer our questions. So we are going to wrap it up now. This will be available for rewatch if you do want to watch it again later. Thank you all. And again, go connect with your clients, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.